Good evening, everyone. It's Vida here. Hope everybody's doing well. I just wanted to record a quick video about something that is, I think, pretty important for musicians and any instrument that you may play, but pertinent to drummers because that's the instrument that I play. So there's something just for myself that I have been working on and focusing on, and that's I'm very focused, or I'm very aware, or try to be very attentive of how a person learns. In this example, obviously myself. Everybody obviously has a different learning style. If you ask 10 different people, that you may come across 10 different answers as to how they learn. And why is this important? Because if we try to learn something and use the wrong style, or wrong meaning, not in a way that is necessarily helpful to how we learn, then we may take more time than necessary to learn something, which is generally not something that we want to do. We would like to learn things as quickly as possible and as efficiently as possible. This is very true in drumming, which is the primary instrument that I play. One thing that I've realized is that when practicing something, generally we want to sound as good as possible, as quickly as possible. And that's largely true with, or primarily true with, just about any person in any instrument in any field. But one thing that, one of the many things that I've realized over time is that as much as we want that for ourselves in our instrument or whatever it is that we're learning, there are certain things that have to happen in order for us to get to that best, fast, whatever. What am I talking about? I'm talking about a learning style or a learning process. Specifically in drumming, there's a phrase that a lot of drummers use. It's called perfect practice makes perfect. Why not just the phrase practice makes perfect? Because when we practice things, drumming things specifically incorrectly, all we do is make a habit of an incorrect form. Bodybuilders are very focused on your form when you're lifting weights, because if you don't watch your form, you may injure yourself. The same is true in drumming. The injury may be immediate, blisters on your hands, or it may be long-term. Back injuries or tendonitis or things like that, which is why the word perfect is added to the phrase practice makes perfect, because you really want to focus on your form. For example, in the single stroke roll, you want to look at how your hands are, how your elbows are, not to the point where you become granular about it, but so that you're mirroring your movements so that you are even, you're symmetrical, and so that your form, how you're playing, your technique, that's the word I'm looking for, is good technique. So you want to use good form and good technique. Why does this matter? Because when you're using poor technique, all you do is hinder your learning. And if you're hindering your learning, you're not going to play as well as you want to play, as quickly as you'd like to play. So it's so important to really pay attention to that. And in order for you to pay attention to your technique, can you be blazing through something? No. You have to start slowly. And this is where lots of people get hung up. Slowly means it's going to take time. And I'm not talking a couple of minutes or a couple of hours. I'm talking about days, weeks, months, and years in some cases for certain things or certain techniques, or just the kind of learner you are. If you're a slow learner, things are going to take you longer, particularly if you have less time during the day to devote it to learning a particular technique, rudiment, fill, chop, whatever you want to call it. This matters so much because all of us have 24 hours, right, in a day. If somebody has 25 hours, I'd like to meet that person. All of us have 24 hours in a day. So we have things that we have to do, we have things that we'd like to do, and there are things that we must do. If you're similar to me, I have to work. I have to drive to work. We haven't developed the ability to teleport yet, so I have to drive to work, which means my eyes are on the road and I'm focused on what I'm doing. So even if I'm thinking about drumming, I got to focus on what I'm doing. Same thing at work. I'm working and focused on my job. So the time that I have to practice, it needs to be very focused. And if that's an hour, then that 1 hour multiplied by however many days it takes me or however many repetitions it takes me, the point is that it takes time. And if you are a person that's easily distracted, also like myself, that means you have to focus all that much harder and make sure that that 1 hour of practice time really, really matters. It's really important. If you have 4 hours or 5 hours, don't get into the trap, or don't get tricked into thinking that because you have more time, you're necessarily using it better. Sometimes when we have more time, we waste more of it. And when we have less time, we're more focused because we know we only have a short amount of time. So in the process that I've kind of worked out for myself, it's 3 levels. It's 3 steps. And the first step is the physical. You may think, well, duh. Well, easy there. Slow down. There are certain rudiments in the drumming rudiments that I have more trouble with than others. I'm fine with the triple stroke roll to a degree, but I have a harder time with flams. Flams give me more trouble than a triple stroke roll. So because I know this, I have to really focus my attention on my form when I'm practicing the flam rudiments. Why? Because when I play them, I want them to sound clear, and I want them to sound crisp, and they need to be sharp, and they need to be intentional. So when it comes to practicing the rudiments, the flam rudiments, I have to really pay attention to what I'm doing, looking at my left hand, looking at my right hand, making sure they're using the same form, they're in the same motion, they're following the same path. And that means that on the physical level, I am literally looking to make sure that I can physically do something. I am physically able to perform a flam. And you may think, well, that's so basic. Sure, but that's what it is. This is a very basic step to it. So I'm paying special attention, very close attention to my hands when I'm doing a flam. My right flam sounds better than my left flam, or your left flam may sound better than your right flam, whatever. But you're trying to close the gap between your stronger hand and your weaker hand. You're trying to close the gap between the one side of your body or the one limb that is better at something than the other limb. So flams in this example require extra attention, more time. That means I'm doing it slower. I'm not blazing through something at 100 beats per minute and it sounds sloppy. I am bringing it down. I'm bringing it way down. If not 70, then 60, then 50. I will bring a tempo down to 20 or 30 if necessary to make sure that my form is good, that it's clear, that it's even, that it's balanced, and that it sounds good. Working on something to achieve the physical ability may only take a couple of hours or a couple of days, may take you a week, whatever. The time that it takes doesn't matter. What matters is that you get it and you get it well, so that the muscle memory is built into your body. So this can take some time because a flam is not a natural thing that we do every day. We walk every day, which is why walking is one of the first things we learn, and we learn it fairly quickly because a child, you put them on the ground, and if they're a learning walker, they'll stumble for a little while and then they'll get going. But it only takes us a short time. We don't even remember it. We think we always knew how to walk, and that's not the case. We don't remember falling over. We don't remember tripping. We don't remember losing our balance. But because we walk so frequently, we walk so often, it becomes second nature. That's what we want drumming to become, second nature. Whether you're right-handed or you're left-handed, you want drumming to become second nature. So you're not thinking about technique. You're just thinking about expression and being creative and being free and ideas flowing and all that good stuff. So the physical level is where you start. Am I physically able to perform this rudiment? Am I physically able to make this fill? I'm not talking about how it sounds at this point. It's just, are you able to do it? If you're able to do it regardless of the tempo, regardless of the clarity, regardless of the speed, you're able to do it, that's great. What we need to build into this physical level is that muscle memory. And muscle memory only comes via repetition. This is where we pay special attention to our form, that perfect practice making perfect. There you go. So we're looking at what our single stroke roll looks like. We're looking at what our double strokes look like. We're looking at what our paradiddle looks like. And we're doing this over and over again at a slow to moderate tempo. We're not blazing yet. We're going slowly because we want to build in good muscle memory. We don't want our left hand to do it one way and our right hand to do it other and say, that's just how I play it. You want to make sure that your right half of your body and your left half of your body are as closely mirrored as possible. This takes time. It takes repetition. Don't rush this process. Don't rush this part of the process. Don't rush it, because you'll ruin yourself for future progress, and you'll end up having to start over, and it will just take you longer. So take the time it takes to really build that muscle memory in to your arms, to your legs, your independence. That takes time too, and don't rush through it. Take the time that it takes and work it out. Work it out until you are so comfortable with it that you don't think about it. Once you get past the physical level, you move into the technical level. The technical level is where you have the physical ability to do something, but now you're building speed, now you're building clarity, now you're building dynamic control. Speed is exactly that, playing it as slow as possible or as fast as possible. Speed is not just about blazing through things, it's controlling the slower tempos, having good control over slow tempos, and having good control when you're playing fast tempos. It's also having dynamic control, playing very softly, gradually playing louder, playing as loud as possible, all while maintaining control, balance, and then the clarity. Meaning, between each note, the spaces are exactly even. A paradiddle sounds as clear as a single stroke row, sounds as clear as a double stroke row. Nobody can tell the difference between the two limbs. I don't know that anybody has achieved that level of perfection, but that's what you're striving for. You're striving for clarity, for evenness, for balance, and for good tone. You want dynamic control to be able to play even at a very soft volume, very even at a medium volume, play evenly at a louder volume, and at the loudest, it's nice and even, it's controlled, it's intentional. Developing technical ability, dependent of what you want to reach, that's entirely up to you. But it's something that you should strive for. Technical ability, the speed, the volume, the control, the dynamic control, the balance, the evenness, the clarity. It's extremely important. Playing a fast fill that sounds sloppy doesn't do anything for you. Being able to play a fast fill that's clear, that sounds as precise as if you were playing it slowly, is what you're aiming for. So that every sticking can be made out precisely. You don't want it to be blurring together or to sound messy or sloppy. You want it to be nice and clear, nice and precise. Technical ability, that development takes time. Just like the physical development takes time, the technical development takes time. It takes lots of practice. It takes focus. It takes a lot of discipline, which is something that musicians don't always have. But the musicians that perform at a high level, that are considered master musicians, they have that discipline. They're taking the time and they're focusing. When they're practicing, they're paying very close attention to that dynamic control, to that clarity, to that speed, to all of that. The development of technical ability can take weeks, months, or years. You may be thinking, what? Here's the thing. The time is going to pass anyway, right? A year is going to pass whether you use the year wisely or not. So why not use it to properly develop your physical ability and your technical ability on your instrument? The third and final step in this process is the musical ability. You're physically able to do something. You're technically able to play something. And finally, you want it to sound musical. What does that mean? That means it feels good. It grooves. It's not just in time, and it's not just really fast or really loud or really quiet. It adds something to it. It gets you moving. There's a good feeling. It grooves. That's important because all the speed in the world, all the chops in the world don't really help you unless you can make them groove. They're not mechanical. They're not boxy. They flow, meaning that the precision that goes with technical ability now changes because you're still playing precisely, but now you know where to bend things when you want to. It's intentional. You know where to keep things very precise and very linear when you want to because it's intentional. Musical ability, which is beyond physical and technical ability, is all about intentional. If it's not intentional, if it's accidental, then work on it until it is intentional. Work on it until what you're doing musically is exactly what you wanted to do. And then do it over again. Because it's intentional, you should be able to do that. Make a fill and make it intentional. Repeat the fill 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 times. Play the fill backwards. Play the fill halfway through. Pick it up again halfway to the end. All those things are so important when you develop your musical ability because it's now what you're going to bring into a performance situation. You're not just shedding by yourself now, and you're not just battling with other drummers. Now you're in a performance situation. Now you have an audience that may not necessarily be musicians, but they have an appreciation for good musical ability. These things, these three steps, physical, technical, and musical ability, they take lots of time to develop, and they take lots of work. But like I said a moment ago, the time is going to pass anyway. And if you're devoted to your instrument, why not take the time to better yourself in these three areas? These three areas cover everything. Believe it or not, the physical, technical, and musical ability cover everything in your knowledge of your instrument. And they're very broad, but when you really look at them, you look at them closely, you realize that, yeah, they do cover all of the things because whether you're a bass player, a guitar player, a drummer, or a horn player, physical ability, your embouchure, your fingers, all these things need to be worked. They need to be worked. They need to develop. They need to be strengthened, and they need to be refined. When you have a refined musician playing, it sounds very different than when you have a person who just plays fast or plays loud. Okay, so think about this. I hope it's helpful to you. Share it with somebody else. I would appreciate that. And, enjoy playing. Enjoy playing whatever you play, and always strive to make yourself better. Have a good day, and I'll see you soon.